Welcome back to English Podcast Voice, the place where we take complex ideas, deep dive into the source material, and unlock the language you need to talk about them. I'm your host, Quinn.
And I'm Riley. It's great to be back with you.
Good to see you, too. We have synthesized a really powerful set of sources today.
Yeah, we really have. It's focused on a topic that it touches everyone, right? Regardless of your background or what your goals are right now.
Absolutely. Today, we are wrestling with that universal human struggle.
Yeah.
Change. And I want you, our listener, to just pause for a second and think about this.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever felt utterly frozen, totally stuck in the same old patterns?
I think we all know that feeling.
For sure. Like maybe you have this huge life goal, learn English fluently, start a business, run a marathon, you plan it all out, and then a few weeks later, you're right back where you started.
Falling into that comfortable, familiar, but also deeply disappointing old routine.
Exactly. It is so frustrating when the future self you want to be is constantly getting sabotaged by the ghost of your past self.
That feeling of being pulled backward is precisely what our sources get into today.
Okay.
We've gathered insights from, cognitive science, career transition forums, and even the personal journeys of public figures like Chris Bosch and Charlemagne Taiga.
Yeah, that's a broad range.
It is. And we're deep diving into the actual strategy behind true transformation. We're going to show that reinvention, it isn't just about changing what you do, but, and this is the key, changing who you believe you are.
It's an identity shift.
Exact.
And this is critical. We're going to explore the noise and the internal and external voices that try to pull you off track.
Right.
We have a genuinely surprising insight about why constantly complaining about your problems. It doesn't just alienate others, but it actually traps you in this cycle of self-pity. We need to know how to stop that.
Indeed. Plus, we'll equip you with 5 fantastic intermediate English phrases and words today, including the very vivid idiom, pity party.
I love that one.
We're going to weave these into our conversation naturally, and then, we'll hit you with a quick pop quiz at the end just to make sure they stick.
Okay, so if you are ready to take control of your narrative, and if you're finding value in this deep dive right now, please do us a quick favor.
Yeah, please do.
Take 1 second, hit that like button, and subscribe to English Podcast Voice. Your support ensures we can keep delivering this level of in-depth analysis and language support.
It really does.
Seriously, hit that subscribe button now, and let's unlock the secrets of self-reinvention.
Let's do it. Let's start with the central, most powerful concept that I think underlies all personal transformation, according to our sources. The foundation isn't habits.
Okay.
It's identity.
All right, so hang on. We all know we should change our habits, right? Like we should study 5 times a week, or we should get up earlier. Why isn't that enough? Why does the identity piece matter so much more?
Because identity is the engine that drives the habits. If you try to force a new action onto an old identity, the identity always wins in the end. It's just stronger.
Always.
Pretty much. For example, if you believe deep down, I'm just not a morning person, then even if you force yourself to set an alarm for 5 a.m., your actions will eventually sabotage you. Your identity as a non-morning person feels like uncomfortable and it starts to fight back.
Ah, I see. So the sources highlight this core idea that true reinvention isn't about new goals, it's about reshaping who you fundamentally believe you are.
That's it.
That speaks directly to that internal monologue so many of us struggle with. If I constantly say, I'm just a procrastinator, or maybe I'm just not quick at learning languages, that becomes a ready-made excuse, right? It's like a comfortable cage.
Exactly. And that feeling of comfort is crucial. We seek comfort in what's familiar, even if the familiar is, detrimental.
Even if it's bad for us.
Right. As the source material pointed out, we tell ourselves stories that give us an out, a way to avoid the difficulty of change. Your example, I work better under pressure, is a classic story we tell ourselves.
Oh, I'm so guilty of using that one all the time.
We all are.
It's okay I waited until the last hour to start this project because, I thrive under pressure.
Right. It sounds like an efficiency hack, but in reality, it's an excuse for delay. And the truth is, you're just feeling stressed and probably performing at maybe, 70% of your potential?
Totally. You are performing the actions of the procrastinator identity, and then you're just justifying them afterward.
You got it. And the neurological consequence of this is really powerful. If you believe this is just who I am, your brain, whose main job is to keep you alive and efficient,
Yeah.
it says, got it. I will strengthen all the neural connections that support this procrastinator identity.
Wait. So if I keep telling myself that negative story, I am literally training my brain to fail. I'm building a neural network that ensures I continue to put things off.
You are. You're engaging in what the research calls a self-fulfilling prophecy. You are reinforcing the very thing you claim you want to avoid. But before we dig into that concept, we've actually hit the core term that describes the solution to this problem.
I know what it is. The answer is to reinvent yourself.
Bingo.
But that sounds so dramatic,
Yeah.
like something a celebrity does when they change their style or their whole career. Let's stop and unpack what reinvent yourself truly means for, an average person trying to learn English or change their career.
Good call. When we talk about personal growth, to reinvent yourself means to change yourself completely. How you live, work, or behave in a deliberate, transformative, and often positive way.
So it's not just tweaking a habit like I'll drink less coffee, it's an overhaul of the entire system.
Precisely. Let's look at how this transformation looks in different contexts. For a formal example, after facing significant challenges in the market, the CEO decided the company needed to entirely reinvent itself, shifting its focus from physical products to digital subscription services.
A total structural and cultural overhaul.
Exactly. Now for a more casual one. At 55, she decided she was tired of her predictable life. She quit her corporate job, moved to a farm, and tried to reinvent herself as a sustainable artist, learning pottery and beekeeping.
I love that. Okay, what about a funny one?
A funny one. Okay. When he realized his old dating profile pictures were 10 years out of date, he decided he had to reinvent himself online by wearing ridiculous hats and pretending he loved extreme mountain climbing.
Oh, no.
Even though he was terrified of heights.
The fake mountain climbing reinvention is definitely going to fail, I predict. But I get the scope of the change required. It's a complete narrative rewrite.
Let's put this into a quick scenario to show the impact. Imagine running into an old colleague.
Okay, I'll be the colleague who is surprised.
Perfect. And I'll be the person who has completed the transformation. Hey, long time no see. Wow, I almost didn't recognize you. You look completely different. Where did you find the time? I mean, last time we worked together, you were so stressed and miserable.
That was the old me. I was constantly burnt out and just focused on money. I realized I needed to reinvent myself. I quit the city, started working remotely, and now I spend my mornings volunteering, focusing on things that genuinely bring me joy. Oh, and I learned 3 new programming languages just for fun.
That is an amazing reinvention. It sounds like you truly committed to a new identity, not just a new job.
Right.
So when we look at common word partnerships or collocations, we often see reinvent yourself used with words like career, image, business, completely and constantly.
So the first step of any reinvention is accepting that the old identity is often trapping us in a self-fulfilling prophecy. Let's get back to that idea because understanding the mechanism seems key to stopping it.
Right. So we define the self-fulfilling prophecy as a prediction that comes true simply because your belief in it causes you to act in a way that makes it inevitable.
It's the ultimate mental trap.
It really is.
But wait, isn't there a risk here that you're just masking a real structural problem with positive thinking? How do we know the difference between a limiting belief, which is the prophecy, and a genuinely difficult reality, which is a hurdle?
That is an essential question. The difference lies in accountability and action.
Okay.
A limiting belief is often an excuse that prevents you from even starting. A genuinely difficult reality, a hurdle, is something you face after you've started taking action. The self-fulfilling prophecy stops you before you even begin. For instance, if you believe I am bad at tests, you might study less because you assume the result is fixed. Your lack of effort ensures failure, which then validates your initial belief.
Got it.
Consider these examples. A formal one. Analysts warned the market would contract. Investors, believing the warning, pulled out massive amounts of capital. This withdrawal of capital created the downturn, making the economic forecast a classic self-fulfilling prophecy.
The belief made it real.
Exactly, a casual one.
Sarah told everyone she knew she was going to have a terrible birthday party. Because she had convinced herself it would be bad, she acted sullen and unenthusiastic all night,
Oh no.
unintentionally dampening the mood and making her prediction a self-fulfilling prophecy.
She created her own bad party.
She did. And for a funny one, he was absolutely certain the coffee machine at work was possessed by a tiny evil spirit.
Okay.
Because of this belief, he always kicked the machine before using it, which eventually damaged the electronics, causing it to break down. A very literal, self-fulfilling prophecy.
The moment you connect the belief to the action that causes the result, the light bulb just goes on. I can see how powerful that is, especially for English learners. If I believe I'm terrible at speaking, I will avoid practice. And by avoiding practice, I guarantee I won't improve.
Precisely. That is the core of the self-fulfilling prophecy trap. The only way to break it is to stop defining yourself by the problem, I struggle with English, and start defining yourself by the desired outcome. I am a confident, improving speaker. So visualization comes in here.
This brings us to the importance of visualization. The sources really emphasize that simply stopping the negative self-talk isn't enough. You have to actively replace it with a clear, repeated image of the future self.
So don't just say, I want to be fluent.
Right. Picture yourself confidently speaking, smiling, understanding movies without subtitles, maybe even presenting a difficult topic in English at work. Get specific.
So it's not just hope, it's detailed internal role-playing that the brain starts to accept as real. You're giving your brain a new blueprint and saying, hey, this is who we are now, support this identity.
That's it. And once the brain accepts the new identity, the actions become easier. The new identity says, confident, improving speakers review vocabulary for 5 minutes before bed.
Yeah.
The old identity would have fought that. The new identity sees it as natural behavior. This intentional rewriting of the story is the first crucial step.
Okay, so we have the new identity blueprint. Now we need to protect it because the world is noisy.
So noisy.
The source English and Comfort talked about a special kind of silence needed for self-improvement. It's not about being literally mute, right? It's about turning down the volume on mental noise and external distractions.
That noise is the biggest enemy of consistency. And it comes from two places.
Yeah.
Internally, the voice of comparison, and externally, the distraction and performance traps of the modern world.
Let's tackle comparison first. Why is looking at other people's success so destructive when we're trying to change? Isn't motivation a good thing?
Motivation is good. Comparison is often paralyzing. We constantly compare our messy, difficult, day-to-day reality of behind-the-scenes footage to someone else's polished, perfect highlight reel that we see on social media.
Right, and the sources warn that this comparison trap is unfair because we're judging our starting point against someone else's finish line.
That's a powerful distinction. Your journey has false starts, mistakes, and days where you feel totally unmotivated.
Yeah, lots of those.
But all you see of someone else is their public success story, which looks so easy and linear.
Totally. And that analogy the sources provided was so good. Two people walking to the same destination. One walks quickly, the other walks slowly, taking breaks.
Both arrive. The pace is irrelevant to the outcome, yet we spend all our energy judging why we aren't walking as fast as the other person. Your journey has its own rhythm and timeline.
That's incredibly freeing. It shifts the focus from external validation, am I fast enough, to internal commitment, am I still walking?
And that commitment is constantly threatened by what we call the social media blur.
Right.
When you see those perfect, filtered, curated lives on your phone, your own real life, the room you are studying in, the difficult grammar concept you're struggling with, it starts to feel blurry, less substantial, less valuable.
So the antidote is quiet action. Stop announcing the goals and start doing the work in silence.
This is the action mantra. Stop the talk and start the work. The real reinvention is quiet. It happens when no one is watching. The person who truly commits doesn't need external validation from friends or followers by announcing their new 5-minute study plan. They just do the 5 minutes.
They let their results speak for themselves.
Exactly.
That takes such an incredible amount of self-discipline, though. We live in a world that rewards visibility. It feels counterintuitive to work in silence. We want the likes and the immediate positive feedback.
But seeking those immediate rewards is often what derails the long-term project. If you use all your energy announcing your new English course, you have less energy left over to actually sit down and do the homework.
The energy for talking is energy diverted from doing.
Right. Protect your focus, protect your environment, and commit to the quiet work. The moment you stop seeking external approval for your goals, you take back a tremendous amount of power.
So if we've shifted our identity and reduced the noise, the next step is tactical. It's about consistency and environment.
This is where most people get tripped up.
Oh, for sure. We aim way too high. We try the massive overhaul, the 3-hour daily study session, the complete dietary change, and it just fails by day 4. Why is that initial overwhelm so powerful?
Because massive change requires massive energy, and motivation is a finite resource. Overwhelm is the brain's defense mechanism against something that feels unsustainable.
So what's the solution?
The simple solution, proven across all our sources, is the power of consistency through tiny actions. Commit to just 5 minutes of focused work, 5 minutes of flashcards, 5 minutes of speaking practice, anything.
5 minutes is non-threatening. I can always find 5 minutes, even when I'm exhausted.
And that is the secret of momentum. The goal of the 5 minutes isn't the learning achieved in that specific moment.
Right.
The goal is to create forward momentum. Once you start, the brain rarely wants to stop immediately.
That ties into the beautiful water falling on a rock analogy.
Yes, one drop of water does nothing, but drops falling every day, relentlessly, eventually make a hole in the rock. The power is not in the size of the action, but in the unstoppable persistence of the action.
I love that image. It transforms the concept of effort from a single massive explosion into a continuous, quiet erosion.
And those consistent actions are easiest when the environment supports them. The advice here is non-negotiable. If you want to change, you must change your environment to support the new identity.
So if your phone is the enemy of focus,
The phone goes in a different room while you study. If you want to be a better speaker, change your phone settings to English, cover your walls with English sticky notes, surround yourself with podcasts.
total immersion, creating a physical and digital world that constantly reinforces the identity of fluent English speaker.
Exactly. You are literally making it harder to fail than to succeed.
Now, let's bring this back to the difficult realities discussed in those career change forums. We talked about how people can get stuck in the same old patterns, not just due to identity, but due to massive real-world obstacles. Let's define that core concept now, because it's a critical challenge for our listeners.
Good idea. When we say someone is stuck in the same old patterns, we mean they keep repeating the same habits or behaviors, often negative or unproductive, and they find it extremely difficult to change or move forward.
It's the feeling of going through the motions without gaining any ground.
That's the perfect description. Let's hear it in action. A formal example. Despite several market investments, the executive team remains stuck in the same old patterns of prioritizing short-term profits over long-term innovation.
And that ultimately threatened the company's future.
It did. Now, for a casual one, every winter I promise myself I'll start running outside, but I always quit after the first cold week. I'm stuck in the same old pattern of enthusiasm followed by hibernation.
I feel that one. Okay, how about a funny one?
My sibling is stuck in the same old pattern of arguing with the television screen during soccer matches, as if yelling loud enough will somehow change the referee's decision.
We all know that sibling. Okay, let's quickly demonstrate how one friend might point this out to another.
I'll start. I saw a friend talking about signing up for another expensive online course. It's her third one this year.
Oh no, I hope she actually finishes this time. She's completely stuck in the same old pattern of spending a lot of money and then quitting before the third week.
She is. She needs to break free from that cycle.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch her repeat that failure again and again.
Totally.
The collocations here are often focused on the struggle. Break free from, feel, remain, change the... You can feel stuck or try to change the same old patterns.
The real-life stories from the Reddit threads showed just how hard it is to break free when the patterns are tied to large financial and physical systems.
Absolutely. The people who made career changes in their 30s, 40s, and 50s faced what they called colossal obstacles. The biggest, mentioned repeatedly, was the financial hurdle.
Describe the depth of that struggle for us.
Okay, so imagine you have spent 15 years building a successful career. Say you were a senior engineer or a finance manager making $100,000 annually.
Right. You have a mortgage, kids in school, a certain lifestyle.
Exactly. To reinvent yourself, you might have to take an entry-level tech internship that pays $40,000. That financial drop isn't just a budget cut. It's a psychological shock and a monumental hurdle.
That's a huge loss of status, security, and immediate comfort. It's terrifying because the financial safety net is gone.
And the sources revealed another, less obvious hurdle. The physical and emotional cost of switching work types. People switching from physically active, hands-on labor aircraft mechanics, chefs, warehouse workers, to sedentary office jobs in tech. They often traded physical strength for mental strain.
I remember one anecdote talk about the physical pain of just sitting all day.
Yes. Moving from constant movement to 8 hours of sitting often leads to significant physical strain, back problems, stiff necks, weight gain.
But the emotional cost was often worse.
It was. One former warehouse worker used to intense physical camaraderie described the remote solitary office job as leaving a gaping hole. They missed the social interaction, the clear, tangible result of their labor. And they struggled with the perceived meaninglessness of just clicking buttons and dealing with office politics.
So they successfully cleared the financial hurdle of the career change, but then immediately faced a massive emotional hurdle of isolation and physical discomfort.
They are indeed major obstacles. And let's formally define that word now, as it perfectly captures the tangible difficulties these individuals faced.
Yeah, the stories mention so many hurdles. Is that just a formal synonym for problem, or does it imply something more specific?
A hurdle is a problem or difficulty that must be overcome in order to achieve a goal. It carries a specific connotation of an obstacle that requires effort and skill, like jumping to clear before you can proceed.
It gives the difficulty a clear shape, something you have to strategize how to get over.
Exactly. Let's look at the usage. A formal example. Despite the administration's best efforts, constitutional reform remained the primary hurdle preventing the passage of the new trade agreement. A casual one. My biggest hurdle right now is getting past the initial awkwardness of speaking English with native speakers. I understand everything, but the fear of making a mistake is a huge obstacle.
So relatable. And a funny one.
The final hurdle before I could finally sit down and watch the movie was locating the missing remote control, which had been hiding in the dog's toy box all morning.
We have all faced that remote control hurdle. It's the worst.
Yeah.
Okay, let's use it in a conversation about an English certification. I'm so excited. I've mastered the listening part of the exam.
That's fantastic progress. What's the biggest hurdle remaining before you can pass the whole test?
Honestly, the biggest hurdle is my vocabulary memory. I panic under time pressure and forget the exact word I need. It feels like a massive barrier right now.
So the goal is clear. You need to strategize how to overcome that vocabulary hurdle, maybe through those 5-minute daily flashcard bursts we discussed.
Perfect. Strategy over panic.
Common collocations for hurdle include biggest, overcome a hay, face a major, and clearance. You often clear a hurdle or face a financial hurdle.
So we have identity, silence, and action. The final and arguably most important pillar for sustainable reinvention is the internal work. Grace and service.
Right.
Because once you hit those hurdles, the internal self-criticism can be just devastating.
This is where we learn how to manage failure and setbacks without allowing them to destroy the new identity. The concept of giving yourself grace, forgiving yourself for past mistakes, is fundamental.
And Charlemagne Taigod's perspective was particularly insightful here.
It really was. He essentially asked, why punish yourself now for mistakes you made when you didn't have the knowledge you possess today? He argued that his 20-year-old self made choices that were logical given the limited information and experiences he had then.
That is a profound act of self-forgiveness. It's moving beyond regret, which is backward-looking and destructive, to accountability, which is forward-looking and constructive.
And his visualization technique is so powerful. Instead of running from the younger version of himself, he actively imagines hugging his 8-year-old or 20-year-old self, offering support and saying, I'm proud of the choices you made that led us here, even the difficult ones.
It reframes the past. Instead of viewing those past selves as liabilities or sources of shame, he views them as necessary stepping stones.
It's recognizing that every version of you was doing their best with the tools they had. Giving yourself that grace means you can commit fully to the present without being dragged down by historical guilt.
And this need for grace is just amplified when an identity is suddenly lost, like in the case of Chris Bosh. His identity as an NBA star, something he had cultivated since childhood, was abruptly stripped away.
Right. Due to pulmonary embolism, he was left with a massive void.
The void is terrifying because it forces an immediate existential crisis. If I am no longer a basketball player, who am I?
Bosch's experience highlighted that professional identities often mask who we truly are as people. He was forced to figure out, what else do I love doing? He had to go inward, away from the roaring crowds, to rediscover quiet interests like music and writing.
And that process of filling the void is difficult and often filled with self-doubt, which leads to the most toxic behavior, constant complaining and self-pity.
He was very clear about the poison of complaining. When we feel sorry for ourselves, we often throw a pity party. This is an internal and sometimes external celebration of our misery.
And that brings us to the surprising fact we teased earlier, that constant self-pity eventually makes people stop feeling sorry for you and start complaining about you.
It's true. The sources explain that people are often willing to offer sympathy once or twice. But when the story becomes a constant loop of complaint without any action or search for a solution, listeners start feeling drained.
They stop being supportive friends and start being resentful listeners. Your pity party becomes their annoyance.
Exactly. It's a tough truth, but essential for self-awareness. It
Yeah.
means if I want to reinvent myself, I have to be the one to break the cycle. Nobody else can do it?
Right. Bosch's solution was the ultimate act of self-motivation. Nobody is coming through that door to save you. You have to move from the question, why is this happening to me, to problem solution. What is the very next tiny action I can take right now?
That is an excellent segue. We need to focus on that idiom.
Yeah.
Let's unpack the phrase pity party. It's so colorful.
It really is.
A pity party is an informal, often critical term for spending time complaining and feeling excessively sorry for oneself, usually in an attempt to seek constant sympathy from others.
The party element suggests a theatrical, self-indulgent, and maybe even performative wallowing in sadness.
Precisely. You're hosting a party and you're the only one invited, or you're forcing others to attend.
That's a good way to put it.
It's self-indulgence masquerading as legitimate sadness. Let's look at the usage. A formal example. Recognizing that dwelling on the mistake was unproductive, the research team agreed that they would not throw a pity party, but instead immediately initiate a root cause analysis.
Okay, very professional.
A casual one. Look, I know you missed the deadline, but you need to stop having a pity party and just call the client to apologize and reschedule the meeting.
Direct. I like it.
And a funny one. The grumpy cat next door threw a silent, dramatic pity party all afternoon because his owner switched from expensive salmon-flavored cat food to the cheaper chicken variety.
I can just picture the dramatic cat. Okay, let's try a quick scenario where one of us needs some tough love.
Go for it.
I can't believe I got an average score on that test. I studied for 20 minutes last night. I'm clearly terrible at English. Everything is ruined. I should just go back to my old patterns. It was safer there.
Stop right there. You are officially throwing a massive pity party, and I refuse to attend. 20 minutes of studying is nothing, and you know it. We need to focus on solutions. What is the first step you are taking right now to fix the study schedule?
You're right. No more self-pity. I need to get back to those 5-minute consistent actions.
Excellent use of the phrase.
Yeah.
The core collocations for this idiom are have a, throw a, stop the, and no time for.
Got it.
And that transition from self-pity to action is often found in the concept of service. If you are wondering about your life's purpose or what to fill that void with, our sources suggest the answer is service to others.
Moving your focus outward.
Exactly. Away from your own internal struggles and toward helping someone else. You inherently shift your perspective and build a new, stronger identity. You stop defining yourself by your problems and start defining yourself by your contributions.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's address a common linguistic mistake that ties back to those career reinvention stories we discussed.
Let's clarify a point of usage.
When people discuss changing careers, especially into tech or new industries, I constantly hear the word pivot. I often hear people say, I want to pivot my career to cybersecurity. Is using the preposition to correct in this context.
That is a very understandable error because to usually indicates direction. However, when using pivot in the context of entering a new career or industry, native speakers almost always use the preposition into.
Why into?
Because pivot implies a movement into a new physical or conceptual space. You're moving into a field of study or into a new industry. So the correct phrasing would be, I want to pivot into cybersecurity.
Ah, entering that new realm. That makes sense.
Another, and often more natural, alternative that avoids preposition ambiguity is simply using the term career shift.
Ah, okay.
If you were chatting casually with a friend, you might say, I'm going to make a big career shift away from finance and toward graphic design. It's cleaner and equally descriptive.
So pivoting into is better than pivoting to, but career shift is perhaps the safest and most generally accepted way to express it. Great distinction.
All right, it is time for the final challenge. You, the listener, and my co-host, get ready for a quick pop quiz to reinforce the vocabulary we covered today.
Bring on the challenge. I have reinvented myself into a quiz champion.
Question 1. If a student believes they are terrible at essay writing and that fear causes them to avoid writing practice, leading to a poor grade, what term describes this circular outcome?
That is a self-fulfilling prophecy. The belief guaranteed the result.
Nailed it. Question 2. If a person wants to switch from being an engineer to a teacher, but the need to go back to school for 2 years presents a massive financial challenge, what do we call that significant obstacle?
That is a major educational and financial hurdle that must be overcome.
Perfect. And final question. If you've had a difficult week and your friend tells you stop complaining and start focusing on solutions, what behavior is your friend telling you to end?
My friend is telling me to stop throwing a pity party.
Excellent work today. You and our listeners have internalized some truly powerful concepts and language.
Let's quickly summarize the 3 most important takeaways from this deep dive into transformation.
First, remember that transformation starts with an identity shift. To truly reinvent yourself, you must let go of the old story, the comfortable excuse, and visualize the person you are becoming.
Right. The identity must drive the action.
Second, achieving goals mean clearing hurdles. Focus on consistency, not intensity. Use small, 5-minute repeatable actions, the water on the rock, to build unstoppable momentum and break free from being stuck in the same old patterns.
And finally, practice grace. Forgive your past self, but refuse to engage in the pity party.
Right. If you are looking for purpose, look outward. The answer lies in service to others, which instantly shifts your focus from pain to contribution.
That leads perfectly to our micro-challenge for you. Today, find just 5 minutes of quiet. Put your phone away, turn down the noise, and use one of the new words or phrases you learned, like hurdle or pity party, in a sentence describing a challenge you currently face.
Write it down or say it out loud. Make the vocabulary a part of your new forward-looking narrative.
And here is our final provocative thought for you to explore on your own. If you're struggling to find direction, take a moment to consider what problem in the world, however small, you are uniquely positioned to solve, even with limited resources.
Your purpose isn't something you find, it's something you create through service.
So simple, yet so profound. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into self-reinvention.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to English Podcast Voice. We release new deep dives every week to help you level up your language skills and your life perspective.
I'm Quinn. See you next time.
And I'm Ryan.